My name is Stephen Bruce Jefferson, Senior. I was born in Washington, D.C. at Columbia Hospital, and I was born on June 11, 1966. I didn't know I was poor because the way my mother raised me, since I'm the only child and my mother and father, they split when I was very young, she made everything feel like we were millionaires because I didn't understand the difference between maybe the best of what life had to offer back then from the way I was living. The way I was living, I thought I did have the best. I remember going to Sears and Roebuck that used to be on Alabama Avenue, you know, and I get tickled because I tell my son back then they had a section called Husky. Sundays were family. You know, Sundays you ate a family home-cooked meal. I mean, you sat down, no matter what it was. It may not have been a lot. As looking back today, it may not have been a lot, but it was enjoyable, and you sat down, you had family time. And that's really missing today, is actually sitting at a dining room table and talking. TV used to go off, I think, about midnight, and they used to play the Star Spangled Banner, and then TV would just go black. You know, you couldn't. The stores weren't open on Sundays, and you know, I think it was called a blue law back then. The only stores that were open on Sunday had to go drive way out in Virginia, but Sundays were church, and then came home and the family got together and cooked a meal. I remember when the Redskins used to play on Thanksgiving. They used to play, the biggest thing was Dallas Skins, and I'm a huge Skins fan. And the churches would let out, pastors would stop preaching no later than 12:45. I was a little kid, and I didn't know back then who Ralph Waldo Peter Green was. And we went to WOOK, which was W-O-K, right off of South Dakota. And she used to go up there on the weekends and do the weather. And he taught her how to do the weather. And I do remember this by just talking to him, like explaining how the weather is today, to get her more comfortable in public speaking. And after she did that, he would give her a script. And he said, read the script just the way you explain, you know, in the same mannerism that you explained it to me. So meeting him at an early age, didn't know exactly who he was, and my mother had to turn on channel 20, and she said, remember the guy that I told stop doing all that cursing? And she said, well, I want you to see him on the TV. So didn't really know that he was an advocate. Just enjoyed listening to his lyrics at the end of the show. You know, it was, the part that I remember the most is he used to say, grab your head and make a fist. Listen at me and remember this. You know, tell it to the hot, tell it to the cold, tell it to the young, tell it. Ain't no crying, definitely ain't no signifying. So it's certain things that stuck out. And I thought he was the coolest guy in town because he didn't bite his tongue. You know, he just kind of, you know, let it out. We had the same things back then as they do today for those who were less fortunate and didn't have the money they had to go on the assistance. It was TANF now, but back then it was just assistance program. Okay. But it was about the same. Back then, high schools were a rival. You know, if you went, like I went to Woodson, so our biggest rival was Anacostia. Okay. And then we would rival against Blue. Okay. And then we would go to Spingarn. You had to rival two schools. So Spingarn, Phelps kind of blended in with Spingarn, and Spingarn blended in with Phelps. So it got to the point where if you played one school, you had to play both schools, and it was closely knit because it was a neighborhood type of atmosphere. When I first graduated from high school, I worked for a Stidham Tire Company. It used to be on Ardmore Ardmore Road. Mm-hmm. Then I worked for Coca-Cola. I worked for Kmart for a while. I was in their assistant manager's program before the company went through a changeover. And then my last job that I had before I got sick in 2009 was at Canada Dry, and I was an account director.
Okay.
Back in June 13th of 2009, I developed stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Wow.
And Hodgkin's lymphoma is a blood cancer, and it's in the same category as leukemia. And I was taking care of my mother at the time. I took a leave of absence like a year before because she had dementia where she was on a feeding tube and she was totally bedridden. So I took time to care for her, and me caring for her, I ended up getting very sick and ill. And one thing I always tell people, if you're a caretaker for somebody, make sure you take care of yourself, because that's most important. That's the only way you're going to be able to take care of anybody else. You got to take care of yourself. I was hard-headed, like most men. Didn't go get screened, didn't go get checked. So the end result was, when I walked into the hospital on June 13th, because I couldn't get the shoe on my foot, it was swollen. And after they did a CAT scan, ended up having a tumor the size of a melon in my stomach, clots in my right leg, fluid around my heart, and fluid had collapsed the lung. So from there, it's been a wonderful journey, and I'm glad it happened. I'm glad that I was, and I say this and people kind of look at me with a question mark. I'd say I'm blessed to be able to have that disease, because it changed me. It changed a lot of the way I look at things. It changed the things that I'm trying to get accomplished. When I was released from the hospital in August of '09, I was a little disappointed because I didn't see any programs designed to treat for cancer patients and survivors in the District of Columbia. So I spoke with a young lady at Providence Hospital, and I said, hey, how can I get involved with trying to spread the word about, early detection, and not for folks not to go through what I'm going through. And they referred me then to Councilman Catania's office.
Okay.
And his office referred me to the DC Cancer Consortium, with a young lady by the name of Yvonne Vaughn, who now is the executive director of the consortium. And I came to her angry because I heard about this consortium, but I never heard about it east of the river. And east of the river, we have the highest disparities and highest rates of incident and also mortality just in every category, not just cancer, but in diabetes, obesity, heart condition, lungs, the whole 9 yards. And just trying to get help for the folks on this side of the river too, because I know that the better hospitals are always west of the White House, or right in the middle of the city. So for the most part, I wanted to become an advocate to let folks know, but also know that it's a two-edged sword over here. When we get the information, it's what we do with it. A lot of times we get the information and say, I can do this, I don't need nobody's help. And in all actuality, you can't. Because when you get diagnosed with a serious disease, be it whatever, for me, for cancer, you think you can handle it, but you can't. And I'm not going to wish what I've gone through on anybody, because stage 4 is known as the last stage of cancer. You have 5 stages, 0 through 4. And 0, 1, and 2, the procedure and the treatment is very minimal. And when you get to 3 and 4, 3 is surgery and chemo or radiation. When you get to 4, is surgery and aggressive chemo and radiation. And a lot of folks, we do have a lot of survivors who have survived stage 4 lung cancer or pancreatic cancer, which is a more deadly cancer. So God is good. He can heal you, He will heal you. And also in His healing, He has a mission for you too. Well, the next step was making sure that, okay, now we have an organization that is out to help fight cancer through early detection and screening, and to make sure that they are understanding disparities in cancer in the city, that Ward 7 and 8 have the highest among prostate, colon, and breast cancer and lung cancer, and now Ward 5 has even entered the category of, I believe it's colon cancer. So to get the word out, to get folks to understand that early detection is always the key, and not being scared. So I become an advocate, I guess, in the city. I can't even say east of the river anymore, because I've spoken in several different venues, and just trying to get them to understand my story, and prayerfully that they won't have to experience what I experienced. I'm a member of First Baptist and we're located on Minnesota Avenue, and the address is 3440 Minnesota Avenue. The history that I found out, because I just joined the church about almost a little over a year now, that they started out in Rosalind, Virginia, and it was and they moved to Washington, D.C. They have a rich history of this, a church made up of about 3 different families, the Heatley, the Flemings, and the other name slips me off the top of my head, but it is a church that is spirit-filled and that is guiding you to God's word. I had a coach in high school, Bob Head. He was a coach that I really didn't have a father figure, so he filled that role for not only me but so many other young men. And you held the utmost respect for him because he was so well respected. And I guess that's what impressed me the most is you see a black man and you never heard a negative thing about him. And of course some people may not like the way he do things, but you never heard any negative things, derogatory things, degrading things, character, this assassination that was carried. You never heard of that. And you always say, wow. And of course when you're younger you don't pay that any mind, but as you get older you want to kind of guide your life in the same way. Nobody says you're going to make mistakes. You're just human. Right. But to hear folks say that, hey, he treated everybody the same. I was in Marienburg Youth Leadership Institute. Okay. And back then I really didn't know a lot about Marienburg. I still call him Marienburg to this day. But that program was designed to build leaders, and men and women. I was in a program with Kwame Brown, Aaron Thomas, Marvin Fontroy, Reverend Fontroy's son, Pastor H.B. Hicks, his 2 boys. So I was in there with a large variety of people that I met, and we were very close, very, very close. Kimberly Hughes and Norm Nixon, just to name a few others. And you learned a lot because, of course, I'm from this side of the track and they're from that side, so you kind of gel and you learn different things and different cultures and different ways of doing things. And I always tell people that it's a difference between Southeast and Northwest, Northeast and Southwest. It's just a different way of living sometimes, and you have different things up there that you may not have down here. And it still rains today. We all have it's a DC vibe because you're born and raised here. Okay. But it is totally different from the schools. Uptown it was Roosevelt, Coolidge. Where your top school, Dunbar, where your top school was McKinley, and on this end it was Anacostia, Ballou, Easton, Woodson, and that nature. And we as in blacks, we were so quick to run to the suburbs instead of deal with the problems that we have here, because now the same problems we used to have in the city are now it's become viral in the counties. And all you had to do was remember what our ancestors and forefathers did, and they protest. And they weren't going to settle for any old answer, and they wanted to make and they didn't wait till the last minute. We don't get involved anymore. When you can find more people at a Frankie Beverly and May's concert than you can at a PTA meeting at DC Public Schools. When you had the big influx of how the services were depleted east of the river and pushed way up in the middle of the city northwest, and people got fed up, instead of challenging the council people at the time to say, hey, we deserve this or we need this, we decided to go to Prince George's County. And I always joke with people, say that's Ward 9, because most of the people had those big fine jobs. When they decided to retire, they just went over the line, and that's how your other areas develop. But I believe it's for the better, and I believe you have to take advantage of all the opportunities that presents itself to you now. I tell everybody, whenever you rent, you really don't have a voice. You need to start owning. You need to know that you can do it and stop saying it's too hard or you can't. Because if you add up what you're paying in rent and And then you go and get involved in a lot of these programs, like the Marshall Heights Community Center HPAP program, first time home buyers. You're going to come to find out it may only be a $20 to $50 difference. And that means you have to sacrifice. You can't get the cable with 50 million channels. You might just have to go with the basic, and so you can work yourself up and save, and then you can do more things. That you fight for everybody. You don't have any hidden agendas. You're not for one particular group. You're for everyone. We're all in this thing together. No matter if I'm at the bottom of the ship or if I'm with the rich folks at the top. When the Titanic sank, it took the rich and the poor with it. And that's just life in general. You're not going to get around it, and you're not going to be. But you have to know how to treat everybody, no matter if it's the guy, and I'm going to stop using the word bum on the street, but a guy that's just trying to find his way back to where he should be, to that person who's the CEO of a corporation. Because all it takes is one bad turn, and then by the grace of God is you. So you don't try, you do it. You treat people the way you want to be treated. And then you encourage people. So I guess the biggest thing is just you gotta sometimes you gotta boost people to the point of saying you are this. So stop treating yourself like you're not. And it's not giving the people a false sense of hope, but it's showing them that, the good Lord didn't make any junk. So whoever told you or whatever situation got you to this point, you need to let it go. Always look at life as the glass being halfway full, even though there's nothing in it. Embrace it. Just enjoy it. Enjoy you, and make sure as you do your travels, you have somebody else enjoy it with you.